Hello, everyone. On January the 27th, Venus is leaving cerebral, clever, little bit dogmatic Aquarius and is entering Pisces, ruled by Neptune. And in Pisces, Venus is elevated. So it's not its ruling sign, of course, but still it is in a very good position, so to speak. And actually, I noticed that whenever you see that the planet itself can actually work without excesses. And also, when you look at Neptune, the relationship between Neptune and Venus, you will see that Neptune rules universal love, mystical love, and Venus rules, of course, physical love, carnal love, so to speak. So we also say that Neptune is Venus's higher octave. And if you look at Venus in Pisces, it happens, the ingress happens every 8 months. So it's not anything special, but still I decided to look at the space-time moments simply because I am interested in planets in elevated energies to see what they can bring. And also because if you look at the last couple of days, anything between the 24th and the 26th of January, you will see that unfortunately the Ukrainian war is escalating. Now everyone is sending big war machines to Ukraine, although it's again a little bit deceptive because I thought about this a lot. Why are they sending so many diverse weaponry to Ukraine? As it's like we haven't had a good war here in Europe for the last 70 years, and all of a sudden, people want to, nations want to get rid of their old machinery in order to buy new, in order to have brand new stuff. And so they are dumping old, outdated technology to Ukraine without ammunition, without technology, without people to man. And also because if you look around, both parties have horrible losses in manpower. So how long can you feed this war machine? Of course, if you send more weapon, it's going to last longer until the last Ukrainian, I'm asking. And here we come to Neptune, and Neptune in its own sign is really working like a smoke screen. So I'm really wondering what Pisces in this very mystical, very dreamy sign is going to be and going to bring us if you also look at the things that were happening last week, like the Davos thing, which was very powerless to say the least. But at the same time, we know that they still want to rule the whole world, and they are willing to really sacrifice us human beings for the planet. It's really sinister. Anyhow, this is a space-time moment for Venus entering Pisces in London. I don't know how to get rid of this unless I can stop share. Okay, hold on. Hopefully you will see it now. Anyhow, so this is a space-time moment. It's happening at 2:33 a.m. in the small hours, in the very early hours. And as you can see, Venus has just moved into Pisces. It is separating from the conjunction of Saturn. So we can say that it is breaking away from Saturn's defining and debilitating grasp. And it also, as it moved into Pisces, immediately it becomes exactly conjunct with asteroid Buda. The number of this asteroid is 908. And Buda, of course, is the enlightened one. So it may bring us some enlightenment, both in the situations of money and also, of course, love or relationship issues. But I think it will going to be a reckoning. How much money we are sending to Ukraine? Where is it going? Is it a Ponzi scheme? Is it something that is kind of channeled back to the certain countries and officials who are very vehemently asking for these monies? It will be interesting to see. What else is here in this chart? You will still see that the Jupiter-Juno conjunction is still very tight. So the marriage made in heaven is still there in the earlier degrees of Aries. And you have a very tight Neptune, Vesta, Astrea conjunction. The Vesta Astrea conjunction will be there all year. So you will be able to focus, Vesta, on life-changing, life-altering, karma-breaking situations, Astrea. And with Neptune there, which rules Venus, and of course Astrea and Vesta as well, you will have this smoke screen coming up as well. But with Neptune, it's important to realize that the only way to deal with Neptune's energies is to go one level up, one dimension higher, and try to see through the smoke screen, try to see through the fog. It's not very difficult. You simply need to go beyond the everyday, the mundane, the obvious, in order to see what is not so obvious. So it actually could help you in this way. And there's also a very interesting midpoint structure. It's not a conjunction. If you look at the Chiron moon Aries conjunction in Aries, it's not a conjunction, because you have like 5-6 degrees apart. You can say it's a stellium, but of course stelliums have a traditional meaning of 5 or 3 or more planets in the same sign, and traditional planets you only have Jupiter and the moon, so it's not really a stellium either, but it is a perfect midpoint structure. So you have the moon at the Chiron Aries midpoint. Aries means drastically altered outward circumstances, and Chiron is karmic wounds. In Aries, it is related to war, among other stuff. So actually, the moon may be able to highlight the suffering and also the horrible aspects of war. So let's hope this is what the Venus ingress is bringing us. And this is for the London chart. So whenever the angles are within a configuration, you need to check your place of time, place, and also the coordinates, because you might have different angles and all of a sudden it's going to fall apart. And actually, if you want to see how different the angles and the structures created by the angles is, for instance, for Budapest, you can relate to my other video on the subject, Venus ingress. It's of course in Hungarian, but you can actually look at the drawings and see the emphasis, how different the emphasis is. So this is a mystic rectangle involved by the CIC angles and the Mars Pallas Athena, Mercury Pallas Athena opposition. There has been this Mercury Pallas Athena opposition for quite a while, because Mercury was, of course, retrograde. First it was direct, then it was retrograde, and now it's direct again, but at the moment it is still very slow, and Pallas Athena turned retrograde, so now it's another relationship between the two planets. And Pallas Athena is wisdom, while Mercury is everyday chatter, everyday talks and communication. And this needs to be taken into account for our future and also for our home. We are going to move further and take a look at the transcendental celestial objects. On the midheaven, you have Persephone, the goddess who is able to live in two worlds. She is a true psychopomp, because she can actually leave the underworld and go up to visit her mother, and then go down to her husband, and she does it on her own volition. And that is the meaning of psychopomp, being able to cross over and of course carry messages and also carry souls from one place to the other. Dione was a nymph, a very young nymph, who was the first wife, actually the first consort of Zeus, when Zeus still didn't know that he was a chief god. And this usually represents early marriage, early hand fasting, some sort of very innocent but very strong bond between two people. And then you have two not very nice centaurs, Aphidas, who is a rapist, and Orcus, who is the Etruscan underworld god, something like Hades or Pluto, of course, but he is the punisher of broken oaths. So those are on the midheaven. On Mercury, you have two asteroids, Tantalus and Nyx. Tantalus, of course, is suffering, and Nyx is the darkness of the night. And Nunki, or Nunki, I have no idea how you pronounce it perfectly, is Sigma Sagittarius, a quite bright star, despite that Sigma is, I don't know, the 8th maybe, or 9th in the row. Stars are assigned Greek letters. Alpha is always the brightest, and so on. And the absolute brightness is 2.1 magnitude, so it's quite a bright star. And Nunki is the point where the celestial centaur is putting his arrow in order to stabilize it. So it is a movement before actually hitting a target. And then on the IC, you have Astarte, Ishtar's version, so the star goddess. Heracles, a hero. Helio, a sun god. On the IC, it is illuminating our roots and our past and our family and our home. And Nessus, which is again not a very, very nice centaur, is a rapist. So you have two rapists actually on the MCIC angle. You might as well think about what it means for London. There, if we widen a little bit the O and allow it a 2-degree O, which I always allow with structures, here we have Chiron and Uranus also in the picture. Chiron is forming a T-square between Mercury and Pallas Athena. It was interesting to see Zelensky's reaction when he was given these tanks, heavy weaponry. Okay, but I need more. I haven't seen any thankfulness on him. Of course, whatever. He's in a tough position, but at the same time, the West is completely crazy to have this war and to fuel this war. And then you have a crown, and this crown structure is when you have a mystic rectangle with a harmony triangle on top, and this is created by Uranus. And on Uranus, you have Gutenberg and Helena. I talked about these celestial objects in a previous video, so I'm not going to elaborate them. And of course, Almach and Menkar, the two fixed stars, which I again showed in a previous video, so you can refer to that. But they are quite different because Almach is Alpha Andromeda and Menkar is the Alpha star of the celestial wheel, representing ideas coming from the depth of your subconscious. And on Chiron, there's still Leila Kuhona. Now they are separating finally. And this is the mystical bird that symbolizes the soul's wish to come back to the earth plane, to live in a physical body. And Alderamin, another bright star of the Andromeda Cassiopeia, Cepheus, Perseus story. And it represents the king who is a little bit powerless because in order to save his kingdom, he is willing to sacrifice his own daughter because his wife was simply too vain and too much in love with herself. And there's also a complex planetary picture around the 7th, 8th degree. This one was 13, 15 degrees. And actually here we have the nodes. And Ceres, the Sun and Mars and Jupiter, Juno. Juno is really closing it. Jupiter is a little bit wide, but of course it's the largest planet in the solar system, so I'm willing to use it. And it's the tight conjunction still. You do have a karmic cage whenever the nodal axis has a square to it, both ends, we call it a karmic cage. And the function of a karmic cage is always to push you to the right direction. Just leave behind the instinctual behavior of the south node and learn new ways, new methods, new strategies. And at the moment, it's the sun at the apex of this karmic cage, highlighting and illuminating both sides, understanding what you know already and understanding what you need to know, what you need to learn. There's also an air-fire kite with Ceres at its tip and the Jupiter Juno at its anchor point. And of course, the Sun and Mars are also there. The Sun and Mars are quite good whenever they are in a trine because Mars is the warrior, it's the general supporting the ruler, the sun. And of course, Ceres at the tip of this structure represents our home, our nurturing instincts. There's also a fixed air engine involving the sun, the north node, and Ceres, where a square, which is a fixed square, and an air trine is supported by the quincunx as well. So it's a very potent configuration. And there's also an almost boomerang. And in this case, it is not the opposition that is failing, because we have an exact opposition with the nodes, but the Jupiter-Juno conjunction is not exactly tightening the semi-sextile with the north node. It's a little bit wide. The semi-sextile has a 1.5 degree orb. So that's almost there, but actually not there. So you don't have a boomerang, a true boomerang. You do have a yod, a finger of fate, with the Mars-Jupiter sextile, and actually Mars-Juno sextile with the south node at its tip. If you look at the transcendental objects, and actually here they are, the sun has Hypatia, who was a mathematician, a woman, who was actually the last librarian in the Alexandrian library, the famous Alexandrian library that was burned to ashes in the 5th century by Christian zealots, and she was murdered. So murdering for knowledge is here the image that we can use. There's also Adonis, the beautiful youth, who is coveted by not one, but many goddesses. And Chariklo. Chariklo is one of the centaurs representing complete transformation. Chariklo is a nymph who falls in love with Chiron, and in order to become his wife, he turns herself into a centaur, the first female centaur. So it's complete transformation for the sake of love, for the sake of, it's interesting that this is prominent in this particular chart with Venus moving into Pisces. And on just to link this sacrifice that Chariklo is making to another centaur, if you look at Ceres, you have Selene, the moon goddess, Plutarchos, who is a philosopher, Osiris, who is the god of underworld in Egyptian mythology, and Dionysus, the god of wine and altered states of consciousness, and Raifonos, which is another centaur about sacrifice. Raifonos is one of the 12 sprites, earth sprites, who are assigned the task to guard Heracles' cradle in order to save him from Hera's vengefulness. And in order to grow up to this task, and in order to be very, very good at this task, Raifonos turns himself into a centaur. So it's another complete transformation, this time for the sake of a sacred task, or some sort of duty, sacred duty maybe. On the south node, you have Zulong and Nukasan. Nukasan is Beta Corona Borealis, not a particularly bright star, but a whole constellation of Corona Borealis, the northern crown, is not very, very bright. And Zulong is a Chinese god of destruction, a water dragon. On Jupiter-Juno and the Jupiter-Juno conjunction, we have Hatshepsut and Horemheb, two very strong Egyptian figures. Hatshepsut is the only documented female pharaoh, and Horemheb symbolizes the rise, the potential rise by virtue and or abilities, because he was born a slave, became a general of Tutankhamen, and after his death he becomes a pharaoh. So it's a very, very high rise, so to speak. And then Salatia, which is a centaur, again, linked to love, and hiding about because you don't want to be raped, you don't want to be exposed, and then understanding true love and accepting it. Salacia is Neptune's wife. And on the North Node, you have Niobe, deep grief, unconsolable grief. Artemis, the moon goddess, Imhotep, who is a polymath, and two bright stars, two alpha stars, Shadir, which is Alpha Cassiopeia, and Hamar, which is Alpha Aries. We are going to look at those stars in a minute. Actually, this is it. If you take a look where they are, they actually, their position, their zodiacal position is 8 degrees Taurus, and at the moment, some are 8 something maybe. They're past 7 degrees. I'm sure. And as you can see, Hamar is a zodiacal star in the constellation Aries, and Shadir is a northern star, Alpha Cassiopeia. So she again is among the Cassiopeia, Andromeda, Cepheus, Perseus, and Pegasus myth. That's all in the northern sky. But what's important is that here you have 2 bright stars at the same astrological degree, and both kind of are very unique in their conducting business, so to speak. Hamar is the warrior, someone who is adamant to step on his own pathway. He is it's a very male star, a very masculine star, and it usually shows that you want to tread on your own path. You don't want to accept any challenges that would obstruct you. You are willing to become even the scapegoat or even the black sheep, so to speak. And Shadir is Alpha Cassiopeia, and Cassiopeia is the goddess, the wife, sorry, the queen, who is challenging the water nymphs because she considers herself so beautiful, and so her vanity causes a lot of suffering. But again, she is a very stubborn, very feminine energy who is well ensconced in her own ideas of herself and is willing to cause a lot of problem because of that. So there are 2 challenging stars, so to speak, and whenever they are prominent in your chart, you are the type of person who is willing to tread on your own path, to do stuff on your own, to act upon your own whims and ideas, and not care for what others think. So those are the space-time moment for Venus entering Pisces. And I'm just hoping that this will bring some sort of relief from suffering, from pain, from wars, and it will give us some sort of hope that love is still strong enough for us to believe in. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye.